Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nightmare Wicked Jester Scary Stories. I appreciate you all. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you'd like. Enjoy the story. I went to a private air show, and I'm the only survivor. My name is Ryan. I'm 19 years old, and I love air shows. Planes, jets, helicopters, you name it, I'm a fan of it. I've been to several air shows throughout the United States, from my favorite one, the Thunder over Louisville, the opening air show for the Kentucky Derby, all the way to small town air shows with local heroes flying their personal planes, just doing tricks or smoke screens to get praise from the locals. It was about mid-May, about the time the air shows start happening around the States. I can't see them all, of course, but at least a few of my favorites I try to attend to every year. I'll be joining the Air Force to fly myself one day soon. But here it was a Friday afternoon when I was off work. I got home. I checked the mail. I was still living with my folks, so it was pretty much routine to grab it out of the mailbox since I was the first one home from work. What I seen in the mail that day was a shiny sealed classified manila envelope amongst the mail. And believe it or not, it was addressed to me. I was crazy excited and nervous at the same time, wondering what it could be. It was from a private security party with an address, but there was no name. So I opened it up slowly and found out that it was an invitation to a private air show. Wow. Supposedly the best one around, put on by some of the most rich and famous pilots around. I was stoked, speechless. It was an invite for my whole family, and it was all free admission. And it also stated in there that only 500 people were allowed to attend. Another thing that had grabbed my eye while reading the letter was that there was a meet and greet with the pilots to where we could get free lessons and ride-alongs. This was starting to sound too good to be true, but I wasn't going to pass it up. I ran to my folks immediately when they got home that evening, and they agreed to go as it was an interesting event to them. And it was only a few hour drive away. Another thing the invite had mentioned was that we needed to please dress appropriately and wear the color white. That was odd, I thought. We can notice anyone not wearing white that had possibly snuck in, and then we can deal with them accordingly, the letter stated. Thank you, and can't wait to see you there. What a strange letter. I was ecstatic as it was already Friday and the private show was already set for tomorrow. I wondered how we were selected, though, to be 3 of the 500 people that were only allowed to attend. It just really didn't make sense, how they knew I liked air shows and all that jazz. I didn't give it too much thought as I turned in early to get an early start in the morning so we could get to the show. I had some intense dreams that night about flying, that the pilots crashed right into the crowd. Luckily, it was just a dream. I woke up in a cold sweat, having to calm myself down, realizing that it was a nightmare. I woke up at 4 a.m. the next morning, ready to hit the road, and we took off by 4:30. We arrived right at the opening of the place. It was very private, all right. It was fenced off miles and out in the middle of nowhere. There were huge hangars there, long runways, and some crazy-looking planes, choppers, and a few jets that looked like they were extraterrestrial. It was quite a checkpoint, though, to get through the property. We were all searched and then asked for our invite paper, and we had to have our names ran to see if we were actually the correct people. Strange, once again, I thought. But I was so excited to see the show begin. Soon groups of people started flocking in, the rest of everybody that received the letters, I would assume, and everyone was dressed in white, just like the letter had stated. It was weird because we looked like some kind of a cult group that was gathering for a meeting. Not that anyone uninvited could see. The security group was crazy deep here. They had guns. The aircraft had guns. There were drones flying around with guns. I mean, everyone around was armed as well. This place was nuts. The show started at 9 a.m. with the first pilot flying a white Albatross aircraft, much like the Red Barons of Germany. But it was much more upgraded and more futuristic, of course. There were huge targets set up that were kind of close to at least a quarter of the crowd of people. And this plane had a couple huge machine guns on the front, and he flew right in close, almost too close for comfort, and then he started ripping off rounds, hitting the ground all the way up to the targets, destroying everything in its path. It was loud and an amazing show as the crowd roared. After a few loops and then a few more engine stalls, the white albatross finally landed, and the people that were set to do the meet and greet privately with the pilot, if they were interested in his style and skills, made their way to the hangar where he had landed the plane, and about a quarter of the group of people headed that way to an enclosed soundproof hangar. Little did I know, this would be the last time I would ever see this group of people again. They just vanished, along with the pilot. A couple hours had passed and there was still no sign. I was starting to get an eerie feeling about this whole setup. Then there were 2 trick helicopters that just came out flying upside down. They started doing flips, all kinds of crazy stunts. Then they quickly vanished over the horizon. Wasn't much of a show at all. Next up was the 5 stunt demons, 5 yellow planes. They flew in formation, blowing white and black smoke everywhere, filling the air so much that it was starting to make it hard to see at least 20 feet in front of you. And they just kept doing this, flying back and forth. Finding this odd, out of nowhere, the gunfire started to erupt, and the rest of the crowd started screaming and panicking as people were starting to fall left and right, as I seen red bloodstained clothes as they were falling down. They were being shot. Red bloodstains were drenched in their clothes. It now made sense to me. It was all a setup to rid of the people that were invited privately. All these people must have been paid a certain amount of money to have free reign to kill us as they pleased. I told my parents, who already seemed to know what was going on as well, that we need to go now. As we started making our way to our car, the formation made another pass, dropping smoke bombs and firing erratically amongst the crowd, dropping all but a few of the remaining people of the 500. Scared as hell, I had a gut feeling that this is the day that we're all going to die. We finally made it to our car. 3 other families that tried taking off before us, and they made it maybe 50 feet before they were blown away by gunfire and some kind of missiles the jets had fired while hovering hundreds of feet above. We got in the truck, my dad flooring the pickup towards the exit. We had to be the only 3 remaining alive now, and just as we made it to the end of the private property, the pickup flipped abruptly, as if it were rigged with some kind of traps to prevent our only chance of escape. It rolled about 4 times. Rough. We were all knocked unconscious. Soon I regained conscience. I started hearing voices off in the distance saying, "Check to see if there's any survivors." So I thought my only chance is to play dead. So I did the best as I could, as we were all pronounced dead after 5 minutes of the 2 well-dressed businessmen checking through our wreckage. I was gasping for air now after they left. I knew my parents were really dead. I couldn't believe this nightmare. As the men moved back towards the hangar and out of sight, I knew I had to make a run for it. I did so, flagging down the first car I seen outside the property. I informed them to call the police, but they seemed like it was out of their hands being on that property. Like this clan owned the police and they couldn't be touched no matter what cruel and unusual things that they did to people. All I know is that I'm the only one to make it out alive to share my story. I'll never be the same again, so please take heed to my warning. If you ever get a flashy invite in the mail to any event, please ignore it. And do not go if you want to live or have your family alive.